Is having a black president enough for black people to consider as reparations for slavery, Jim Crow, and other outrageous acts against them? Well, regardless of what black people say, state officials say that they weren't alive 150 years ago, and as a result, it's not convenient to indulge in repairing a cause they are not responsible for. They say that doing this could disrupt the economy, and there are questions such as who should receive reparations, how much, and who should pay. Despite all these interesting and educative points, there are still a lot of questions as to why such excuses are only given when black people ask of what is right for them to ask. While Asian minorities and minorities of Is Not Real have been receiving this as far back as the 90s. It only leaves us with more questions than answers. What is your take on this? And do you think it's right for state officials to dismiss reparations for black people, but still give it out to other minorities? Because hey, if you deserve to be paid for work you did in the previous month, what about the work you've been doing all your life?
I don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago for whom none of us currently living are responsible is a good idea. We've elected an African-American president. I think we're always a work in progress in this country, but no one currently alive was responsible for that.
Remember, we're not talking about a gift to anybody. We're talking about mending what was broken. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans. And just crossing out a race policy and replacing it with a neutral one is not enough to deliver equality. Harms compound, just like a dollar saved in its value compounds over time. So does the value of a dollar stolen. And that is why the United States must act immediately with investments in minority-owned businesses, with investments in health equity, with investments in HBCUs, and on the longer term, look at reparations so that we can mend what has been damaged.
Hey, black people, my fellow Nordians. Isn't it funny how this conversation comes up around election time? The one piece of information that we really need to take heed to in that whole kerfuffle of bullshit was a dollar saved compounds and a dollar stolen compounds. Compounding interest is powerful. So start saving and creating your own generational wealth now. Because the things that this country have done, very unfair. Expecting the same country to give us reparations is crazy. Should black people have been got reparations? Yes, but the United States of America failed the test and failed the grade. You know how you were in school, you didn't do your work, then report the card comes around and like you scared, you ask for extra credit, you try to do this, that, and the third. That's what America did, but they don't fail the class. They just failed at like having black people's trust ever, and they're never going to give black people reparations. They just dangle it in front of your face, get your vote, and keep it pushing. That's it, that's all. And these grants for black-owned companies, I own too. I promise you. You have to jump through so many hoops and barriers. You have to jump through so much to even be in the running to get one of those grants. It doesn't even make sense to try and get one. I know there's gonna be a lot of creators on this app who are like, America hates black people. No, America does not hate black people. America simply doesn't care about black people. So you gotta go get some money on your own. Would I like a reparations check? Yes. Do I think I'm ever gonna get it? Absolutely not. Let's keep living in reality and don't let the stupid these Democrats make you forget what life is.
In 63 BCE, the Romans took over, right? There's a certain someone who was taken off the map. Until 1948, right? We talking about 2,000 years later, roughly, give or take, I don't know. 2,000 years. Not only did you provide them what could only be called reparations, among many other things, you still to this day subsidize their entire existence. Okay. Free everything, free education. My tax dollars give them a beautiful life while I stay here and struggle. But 150 years? You can't do that? You don't feel like we should go that far back for black people? Given all that we've done to them in this nation? But 2,000 years you can get on board with. 2,000 years. Those people deserve reparations. But the people here at home, right, who are consistent, there is overwhelming amounts of proof as to how they are still systemically kept down, held back to this day. But you can't put any effort into that because 150 years ago versus 2000. Come on, Mitch. You're not that guy. 150. Give these people their reparations. If you can give it to them spoiled Europeans, give it to these people, because God damn it if they don't deserve it. And indigenous. This is ridiculous. 2,000 years you can justify reparations. But 150, no. Man,
And I don't think that you're old to be even working, or let alone dictate what that we need as a whole. You're too much old. You need to go and retire and let the next mother do it. Sitting right here talking out your mind. Did you take your medications today, sir? It's given that you have Alzheimer's and you need to go and sit your down somewhere. Saying, oh, we shouldn't give reparations because Obama is not black. Obama is a biracial man. He's both white and he's both black. And even though if that was the case, you're old and still gonna pay us our reparations, whether or not we have to come in there and you up. And you sitting right here worried about us. Meanwhile, you have 3 goddamn chin. You worrying about reparations, you need to repair that chin. Oh, that looking like you smell like peppermint.
They should contact Africa and get them to pay the reparations because they're the ones that sold their ancestors to the rest of the world. It wasn't America's fault. It was a product, and America bought the product. Do you actually think a white person went traipsing through the desert or the jungle after them? Nah, they waited on the coast while their ancestors, the African ancestors, brought them from the different villages and sold them to the rest of the world. That word you all don't like, which means black. Imagine where that word came from.
The only reason anybody would be against reparations is if they don't feel that this country has anything to repair in how it has treated and continues to treat black folks.
I don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago for whom none of us currently living are responsible is a good idea.
First off, Mitch, you were alive 100 years ago. Look at you. Second, reparations are not just about slavery. They're about repairing the incessant harm that has been done to black people in this country since we were stolen and brought here, and that does not end with slavery. These people act like Jim Crow was just like a minor inconvenience. It was violence! And I don't know if y'all been looking around lately, but basically reparations should be owed for what was done like 15 minutes ago in this country.
We've, tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war.
If the Civil War was really about righting the wrongs of slavery, then we wouldn't have all these Confederate flags and Confederate statues still just confederating around to this day. To this day!
By passing landmark civil rights legislation.
These people wake up every morning to undo civil rights legislation.
We've elected an African American president.
Now you know you ain't vote for Barack. We need to become reparationists. We need to make preparations for reparations. And I say that comes with us first making reparations a part of our culture. This should be a part of our lifestyle. And we should be demanding that reparations be given to us by whoever is in the presidency and by whoever wants to be president. And also by our local and state governments. And I don't think that means just waiting to the last minute of an election and saying that we're not going to vote for you unless you give us reparations. Nah, we should be getting behind candidates who already believe in this. And all you white folks who want to be down, maybe you better be reparationists too. That's the new question for your white friends. Do you believe black people should get reparations? See, reparations are not a capital gain. They're an ethical practice. Because in a society where advancement is determined by money, the only way to correct the systematic hindrance of that advancement is by providing money. Reparations are not some far-reaching thing that have never been figured out before. We need to stop looking at reparations as something we need to imagine. Consider them as something that is very real that needs to happen. What we need to imagine is what we are going to do with the reparations to make sure that our community and ourselves are taken care of. We need to become reparationists.
So palm color folks don't feel like paying reparations is the right thing to do because the African people might have initiated slavery itself. But when they the ones who went looking after them in the first place and provoked those guys to sell their people to them, even if they might have not intended that to happen, they enticed them with all kinds of gifts. And slavery was designed in a way that if you wronged the community, you would be taken to go and work for the chief or the king or a high official in the community. It was just a police system and nobody was getting unalived or getting hurt as they did in slavery. And when I say slavery, I mean the slavery that palm coloreds brought upon black people. Because you see, when you were a slave in your own community, you are not considered a slave. You are still part of the community. The people wouldn't hate you. They'll just look at you as somebody who's on a journey of individualization, somebody trying to discover themselves while also being useful. Take for example, some offenders would be taken by the village doctors to become their assistants. So it was a peaceful practice among tribes. It wasn't something to assert dominion and show somebody's supremacy or domination against you. Palm coloreds came, found a peaceful system where you're still considered as a human and with respect, and disrupted it. They promised to get them and take them in a place where they'll be more useful than in their current places, a place where they'll relearn the ways of the palm colored and come and teach their people. And after that, they would also build them universities and teach them all kinds of things. It was an agreement until those people that were taken abroad taught them the ways of the Africans. They taught them the ways of their people, what they believed in and what they feared. They taught them where their minds were. That's where palm coloreds rose against those Africans, the ones they were in partnership with, and came and attacked them, seized their lands from them, raided their cattle, including jewelries, resources, religious relics and artifacts. And at this point, they were pretty much just forcing it now. And also, there were indigenous blacks that they found in the Americas. What about their reparations? Because they pretty much forced those ones into slavery, just like they did the others. But since they are denying it, how about that? But Asians pretty much got their reparations though. Reparations have long been contentious issues in the discourse of social justice, serving as a means to reckon with past injustices inflicted upon marginalized communities. Among these communities, Asian minorities have faced various forms of discrimination and exploitation throughout history. This report is saying it as if they're the only ones that are deserving of it, or as if they're the only group that got inflicted. The history of Asian minorities in regions such as the United States is fraught with instances of systemic orthodoxist, xenophobia, and mistreatment, from the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 to the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. State-sanctioned discrimination has profoundly impacted Asian communities, resulting in enduring socio-economic disparities and psychological trauma. But what about the trauma and the pain of black folks? Reports or articles like this make it sound as if black folks were deserving of what happened to them. Nobody is deserving of any of this, but why are black people sidelined though? And why are all systems, medical system, education system, based on such principles and phenomena? That is the reason why perhaps the pain in the medical system when it comes to black folks is usually ignored. Perhaps they are taught to ignore it in medical school, and we've seen a lot of black minorities come out on social media and say the experiences that they had at the medical facility and how painful it was for them to go through a treatment because the doctor wasn't considerate of their pain. Asian immigrants have often been subjected to labor exploitation, including the infamous cases of Chinese railroad workers and Filipino farm laborers, exacerbating their marginalization. The payment of reparations to Asian minorities is not merely a gesture of goodwill. It is a moral imperative rooted in principles of justice and equity. Reparations seek to acknowledge and redress the historical wrongs perpetuated against these communities, affirming their dignity and humanity. By providing material compensation and symbolic recognition, reparations serve to rectify past injustices and mitigate ongoing inequalities, thereby fostering reconciliation and social cohesion. And the whole simplification of it is perhaps regarding the relationship that they want to maintain with a country or a group of people, that they pay reparations so as to uphold that relationship dynamic, ensure that they really care, and they want to reconcile and bring awareness to the injustices that they caused those people. And I guess it goes along the line of China becoming a superpower and just really becoming an independent country, and no longer dependent on other people, no longer dependent on foreign aid. They became advanced in technology. They invested in agriculture, diversified, and also heavily invested in their education. And the other point they are stressing a lot is the importance of acknowledging the wrongs they did, especially on this aspect of Asian minorities. They are saying that acknowledgement is very important. It makes you appear as an understanding figure to those that you oppressed. And it shows that you really want to reconcile and uphold the relationship, and you value the relationship that you have with these people. But like I said, it goes along the lines of after you seeing the value that these people bring to you, or that would bring later in the future. And that's the reason why it's becoming evident, for me at least. Perhaps that's why there's an agenda to prevent black people from rising back to power. Why do we have democratic powers in Africa preventing blacks from doing their own things? Mines are occupied by foreigners. Resources are taken from Africa to foreign lands, refined from foreign lands, and brought back to Africa as if that's not even expensive, and they are later sold to the people that it originated from. So there is this fear that blacks will one day dominate and rise, maybe also do the same things that we did to them. So let's prevent them from rising, Perhaps that's how the story goes. Because just imagine being dominated and conquered by somebody you oppressed in the past. It's embarrassing and shameful. And you don't know what they're going to do to you in the future. So let's monitor their every move. Let's survey them. Prevent them from doing anything alone or independently. As if that's not enough, they're building African schools, African roads, African infrastructure, as if Africa doesn't have its own contractors. So it's a fear. So they don't want any black person to be successful, independent, and powerful, because if that happens, we will no longer need their help. If Africans, they will no longer share their resources with them. And that's a wrap up on today's discussion. Leave your thoughts in the comment section, and also tell me, how do you think black folks can claim back what is rightfully theirs? Through reparations, of course. But how are they gonna do this? Share your thoughts in the comment section. I will see you in the next video. Signing off. Thank you for watching.